All right, welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight show. I got my guy Todd Washington, a very special guest, my former roommate, teammate, Eastern Shore brethren. So we go
Yep.
way back, man, since we were kids. So this is going to be really fun because I know a lot about you, but you keep sort of a low profile. So a lot of people may not have known what's been going on since you left Virginia Tech, the NFL. I know a lot of people know you're coaching, but I think it's a good time to let everybody know how you got into coaching. But let's start off, man, with the Eastern Shore. Let's start off, because again, I'm from the 757, you're from the 75. We know about Hampton and Newport News, but a lot of people don't know about the shore.
The country. Yeah.
The other side, Onancock. Yeah,
They don't know about the country part of the 75.
Nah, where I learned about Scrapple and homemade ice cream. So you grew up on the shore. Let's go back there for a second. It was you and TJ, your mom and dad. How was it growing up on the shore, and how did you get into sports?
Well, growing up on the shore, I mean, there really wasn't much to do. Either you're outside playing with trees, sticks, and rocks, or whatever bikes you have, or you're playing with the neighborhood kids. Again, like I said, it wasn't much. Either you're playing the sport of the season. If basketball was on TV, you're playing street basketball with the guys in the neighborhood. If it was football, you're playing sandlot football, and we made our own wrestling belts, out of shoe boxes. So it was something that we had to do to keep ourselves busy. My parents did a great job of keeping me out of trouble because that was very easy to do over there because it really wasn't much. But, sports was one of the early avenues that I found out about that could help me stay out of trouble. And, I tried playing for the Pee Wee football team when I was a kid, but I was 2 pounds overweight. I was a little short butterball, so I didn't play football. I did. So instead of getting in shape and getting ready for playing Little League, I went to McDonald's and said, I'm not going to play. I tried again in middle school. 6th grade year, I got cut. The coach said I wasn't good enough. So I didn't really start playing football until 7th grade. And I just gravitated towards offensive line because at the time we were big kids. We were big boys. And, and that's how it stuck for me.
And you were big boys. And what I remember, because I was a big boy, but you and TJ, your older brother, were two of the first kids I ever met that I looked, especially TJ, I'm like, wow, they look like me. And TJ was even bigger than me and you. But you come from a legacy where your mom and dad, you got great parents. Talk about your parents and also what they instilled in you and TJ and what you guys learned from them, because I know your mom and dad, they're like parents to me. But let's talk about their legacy for a little bit and what the impact they had on you and TJ.
The biggest impact they had on me was hard work. This world is not fair, as we know. It's unpredictable, sometimes scary, and nothing will be given to you. And you have to go out there and work for what you want. And sometimes you not take it, but you have to demand it and put the time in to get what you want. And when I got cut, 6th grade year, I had my little pity party, but then I'm thinking, okay, now what? What I'm going to do? I'm not going to get in trouble. I don't want to get in trouble. So I have to work at it. And so that's what I did. Money was tight at times, as with most families, on the shore, but we made do. We made do with what we had. We had a lot of good friends, and it took a village. My dad especially not only just coached me in high school, he coached a lot of players. He reached out to a lot of players and got them into small colleges and got them off the shore as well. So, that's how all that stuff unfolded. And, they were my dad especially was my best friend, and as you know, he passed away, a while back and a couple years ago. And, I think about him all the time, and that's the reason why I work so hard. And I just hope my kids see that when I'm working.
Yeah, and I think they do. You're a very hard worker. I mean, from the moment, we played in the VHSL All-Star game together, and I knew you were physical. I knew you were good. What I remember is, we were in that Hampton heat, and it was hot as hell. And
it was hot as hell.
You had on those black tights.
Yeah, I had all
your
the black
pants.
leggings, man.
The black leggings. I was like, hey, bro, you gonna wear them? He's like, yeah, I'm good. And then you played, you balled, you
Well,
wore pants. Before we
here's the
get to your
story behind that. Here's the story behind
I
that.
know before we get to your high school career,
Yeah.
on the show, man, like I know because my dad, for those that are watching, my dad is a preacher, been a minister pretty much most of my life, all of my life pretty much. And he was assigned to a church over in Onancock where I met you and TJ and your mom, dad, and everyone else, Kevin, and so many other great people, CJ, Buddy. But what I remember is the shore. You talk about, not much to do and not much going on between, the poverty and challenges you have. You guys, a lot of times people talk about, oh, in Chicago or Newport News, but you guys had to rise above that as well because your dad was very important in getting a lot of people off the shore. Not so much you had to run away, but he put a lot of people in positions to be successful. And you guys were part of a legacy that included not only you and TJ, but Ace Custis and William Boatwright. Were there other players or other people on the shore that made it out that were?
There were several players that made it out, but not on the level that we talked about, like me and my brother, Ace Custis, and that nature. There were smaller kids that went to smaller schools or just got decent paying jobs that were not on the shore. But those are the guys that you won't hear about. But my dad had a role in helping them get their grades up, making sure they're doing the right things. I can't tell you how many times there would be multiple cars in our driveway, cars I don't recognize, but they're guys asking for help, and my dad was right there helping them.
Yeah, and one reason why guys like you and TJ, your brother, and Boatwright were so strong and physical because for those that have never been to the Eastern Shore, you're going to eat, okay? You're going to eat. Like, you got people over there that can cook. And that's when I first learned about a food called scrapple.
Yes.
Which is, I remember eating it. I thought it was like sausage or whatever. And the ladies at the church were telling me it's the leftover from the pig. And, and then there was other things, places like Tammy's and Johnny's where, to this day, man, might be the best fried chicken I ever had. But there were great memories on the shore, man. So you got into football after, growing up, you get to high school. Now, your brother was already having a great career. Talk about his influence on you and was there internal competition in the house between you two, having two alpha males, a dad who play games? How was that growing up with you and TJ, and how did that translate to the field?
Well, it started off, my dad was coaching at the rival high school at first, and my brother was at Nandua, the high school that we went to, and me just watching them. I wasn't playing football at the time, so I'm watching these two guys, one's coaching, one's playing. They're going against each other twice a year, and I wanted to be a part of that action. I didn't want to be better than my brother. I didn't want to be better than whoever I just wanted to be a part of it because they seemed like they were having fun. And when I first started, doing drills with my dad in the house, he was very strict with technique, foot placement, hand placement, and it got to a point where I was crying. I was getting tired because I was always doing it wrong. I didn't know any better at the time, but he got me ready for the long run, the process that I'm going through. And, we were, again, like you said, we were big boys. And, we were over 300 pounds easily. And the next heaviest guy was 190, 195. Yeah. we were a single A ball. We're a single A ball club. And I think when people first saw us, they looked at us like, okay, we're just big country dumb boys. But what they don't realize was on the shore, we did a lot of eating, but there were days on end where we were dumped or our dad would go into the middle of the woods. He'll cut down trees and he'll leave us out there all day and we're cutting, we're splitting, we're stacking, we're carrying logs out of the woods. And that was our strength and conditioning. So when we started running down little kids, little players, and we started making big hits and we started doing those things, people started taking notice. But again, it was on the shore, so I know word spread fast, but outside of the shore, it took a while.
Yeah, and I played at Hampton High School. Tons of state championships, known for winning regional and state championships. Coach Smith is a Hall of Fame coach, and yet you and TJ eventually became two of the best linemen to ever play in Virginia, as well as at Virginia Tech. When TJ was getting recruited, what schools were coming after him? And did you know when he started getting recruited, did you think, okay, I got to get my mind right, I'm up next? Or were you just like a lot of kids, just happy to be playing high school football?
Well, Rutgers came through. Obviously, Virginia Tech came through. UNC, all the ACC schools, except for the Florida schools, they were all on the East Coast, were coming knocking on the doors to talk to TJ. And I remember during that time, I was so enamored. I was so fixated on what my dad was doing. I was just straight watching him coach. I was in his office breaking down film and drawing up plays on the VHS tape, or drawing up stuff that I saw that I think that might work. I wasn't really worried about the college coaches because I was just wanted to be around what my dad was doing. And I remember Moses Risen at the time was the wide receiver coach at Rutgers. He looked at me and said, when he was in our house watching TJ his film, we're coming back for you. And again, Billy Height said the same thing when Frank Beamer and Billy Height were in my house looking at TJ, we're coming back for you. I didn't think anything of it at the time, honestly. I was worried about coaching and how to help my dad and all those things.
When it came your time up, TJ was already at Tech. I had already played with you in the All-Star game. And, when I met you, it was me, you, Tony Morrison, Wild Boy Tony Morrison, Angelo Harrison, Marcus Parker, Ken Oxendine. We were part, of, at that time, and probably still one of the best recruiting classes in Virginia Tech history. But did you choose Tech because of TJ? Because the one thing I remember about you, and I'll let you tell your story, your truths, is you've always been your own person. You create your own path. But did TJ have an impact, or what sold you on Virginia Tech? Because it paid out for you big time. But yeah, I'm sure I know you had other offers. But what made
I had other offers. UVA, East Carolina, NC State. I had a few, and Virginia Tech was not my first choice. And what people really don't know is I took 2 trips to UVA. I took an official and an unofficial. I took my official visit first, my 1 of 5, and had a great time there. But I wanted to see more of the campus. So on my way to Virginia Tech, which was my last trip, I stopped in Charlottesville and took another tour. And my dad looked me dead in the eye and said, if you want to go to UVA, we're going to go turn the car around, we're going home. If you're going to go to Tech, we're going to keep on driving. So it took me some time, and I just didn't have that feel that I wanted to get from UVA, so we kept driving to Blacksburg. And what sold me on the Hokies was not my brother. It was not my family. It was Beamer looking me in the eye and saying that we will treat you as Todd Washington, not as TJ, little brother. And that was something that I've actually fought against all my childhood, is that, you're just the baby of the family. You're TJ's little brother. You're the baby brother. I'm not a freaking baby, man. I'm a grown man. I'm going to show you. And that was my attitude, and that's the way I am today.
Yeah, and that's what I love about you, man. And I also remember, man, you were supposed to come to Virginia Tech as a defensive lineman. At the All-Star game, you played defensive line. I remember me and you going against each other in one-on-ones, and then you would play offensive line as well. But turns out Beamer and company, my old coach, Coach Grimes, the legendary Coach Grimes, who's now at Auburn University, he decided to move you, myself, and Derek Smith, and all of us and on O-line. Did you have a problem with that? Were you okay with playing offensive line? Was it, I just want to play?
Well, my plan going into Virginia Tech was to graduate in 4 years and be a GA and coach. That was my plan when I first got to Blacksburg.
See,
So
hold on,
when
you knew that? Hold on, Todd. You knew that? That was
my goal.
So you weren't even thinking NFL?
Not that time, no. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And so when I signed to Virginia Tech as a defensive lineman, I was excited. But when JB Grimes, the offensive line coach, asked me to switch, I didn't second guess it at all because he told me I wasn't going to redshirt. And again, in my mind at that time, 4 years, grad school. So I wanted to stay on that path. So I said, why not? And, I moved over to center and I took my lumps. And my freshman year, I worked my way up to splitting time with Billy Connolly, which was a starter at the time, but shoulder injury cut my progress short. But again, that was my plan going in my freshman year. I didn't mind the switch at all.
And you talk about, I remember, it's funny, as you were talking, I go back to that time. What I remember is in that first year, because back then, I don't know how Tech or other colleges do it now, but the new kids report, the incoming freshman report, and then we have like a mini camp, 3 or 4 days or whatever, and then the varsity, the Cornell Browns and company, the older guys, the vets show up. And I remember in the scrimmages, Derek and I was beside each other. And I remember Derek and I were going against Cornell Brown and all those guys and JC. And I remember he whispered to me, he said, "I'm not ready." And I said, "I'm not ready either." And Cornell, I can't say it on the show because it was so extra. It was in the heat of the moment. He was telling the coach, "Y'all disrespect me. Y'all got these young bucks in front of me." He was breaking us in. But what I also remember about that time is you never blinked. And mentally, unlike Derek and I and other guys, you were ready. Like, first of all, anyone that knows the game, if you don't know the game, allow me to say the center position is right there with the quarterback position. You have to know all the fronts, all the audibles, and you have to be able to be patient because the quarterback is doing checks with me, looking at the fronts as well as in today's game, the sideline, and you never blinked. And you played as a true freshman, which I thought, especially back then during that era with the defense we were going against, was impressive. Was that a sign of how your dad prepared you and how you studied and didn't waste time on other stuff? What do you attribute to that?
Yeah, he working with my dad got me ready for that. I knew there was going to be better players than me, bigger players than me, guys that are more experienced. But what people don't really know about me is, and I was bullied a lot as a kid. Both my parents were teachers, and a lot of students, a lot of kids didn't like that, so they took it out on me. I was short and I was wide. I didn't grow into my body, so all those years of getting picked on, bullied on, and when I finally made the football team, my 7th grade year, first tackling drill, I break my best friend's collarbone. I broke my best friend's collarbone because of all the crap that I had to deal with as a kid, and I finally had a chance to hit somebody. And then that just propelled me forward to having that attitude like, never again. If you get me, you're not going to get me again.
Mm-hmm.
You bully me, you're not going to bully me again. I'm going to find a way to get you back. And, you remember when we first got to Tech and those one-on-ones? I held my own, but it was ugly. But I could not back down. I wasn't going to. My dad taught us that, when you want something, you can't back down from it, especially if someone is bigger than you. Learn from those mistakes, learn from those beatings, because eventually you will win and you will be dominant. And that's the approach I took.
Well, and the one thing I remember about playing with you, which I love, not only did you have a high football IQ, but you were nasty on the field. Oh, you were nasty. See, I don't know if your children know, or maybe because, everyone doesn't pay attention to the offensive line, but if you go back and watch the YouTube tapes, or if you watch the games, Todd Washington was nasty. And I'm talking about not Bill Lambier hit you in your gonads and your nuts. I'm talking about he was going to drive you all the way, like the Blind Side of the movie where he hit dude over the fence. And I think that is why you became one of the best players to play that position at Virginia Tech. And we had some great ones. You mentioned the great Bill Connolly, Jim Pine, and then you kept it going. And it was pretty remarkable. Did you ever think when you were playing that you were going to become that great, or you were just in the moment?
I wasn't thinking about becoming great. I was just wanted to be a good teammate and play well.
Mm-hmm.
I was so hard up on JB Grimes' grade sheet that I wanted to make sure I graded out. I wanted to grade it out. I didn't care about anything else. I wanted to grade out winning football. And then, everything else came into play. The NFL for me didn't start until my junior year. I went from, I played left guard my junior year, and then I made the switch my senior year to center. All of a sudden now people, from what I've heard, I started hearing things. I mean, obviously it must have been going around me before, but I really was not focused on that. But during that junior year, when I got wind of it, and okay, now let's see where it takes. Why not?
And when you were at Tech, do you remember? I'm sure you have to. I should say I remember. Those first couple of years, because you were my roommate my redshirt year, my first year. Then you were my roommate when I started traveling with the team a few times on the road. And I remember that, when we argued about East Coast, West Coast rap and all the different things going on at Tech and girls and different things, you were going to bed early getting ready for practice, and you were dialed in and focused. That was also obviously a product of you preparing and you wanting to be a coach. You didn't really waste a lot of time. Like, you studied film. You went over to Castle, the facilities, while other people were wasting time. Is that pretty much because you were prepared to be a coach, or also just trying to be the best player you could be?
Combination of both. Wanted to be a coach, and doing it with my dad all those 4 years in high school, it was part of my routine, a part of my habit. So it was naturally for me to continue that when I'm in college. But, the other part of it, is that you want to be the best. If you're going to do something, you're not going to do it half-assed, and you're not going to do it just because someone asks you to, and we all know that if you try football half-assed, you will get hurt. So you have to go out there and put the work in. You have to be the best. And if I'm going to set foot on the field, I don't want to get beat. So I have to make sure I'm looking at the people I'm going against and try to find an advantage.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Like, when you were at Tech, you played against some dogs.
Yeah.
Who stands out even now? I mean, we're grown. We're in our 40s now. You're a coach. You're coaching at the NFL level. You coach collegiately. But when you take yourself back to those days in Blacksburg and in the Big East, the old Big East, who do you remember that you're like, okay, let me buck up a little tighter? Because Miami had them, the Hurricanes, West Virginia, but who's played?
Miami had Kennard Lane, Kenny Holmes in that front four. West Virginia had Thornton and Slay, those two big guys inside. Syracuse had Antonio Anderson with 6'9", 320. There were some big men. But the one that gave me the fit stat is probably a name that no one will ever know. My sophomore year against Pitt, that was my last game as a starter. I got benched. I didn't play well enough. Defensive lineman named Mike Halpin. He went against me, and he tore me a new one. And the thing that really drove me and really got me motivated was, come to find out, when he got to the league, they moved him to the offense. So I got beat by an offensive lineman. So that really did not sit well with me. So, that guy really, he wore me out. He benched me. I didn't see the field again I didn't start again until my junior year. And that was right after the Miami game, my sophomore year. So he was like the main guy that had it out for me, that got me, that humbled me, in better words.
What did Coach Grimes tell you? Because, for those watching, Coach Grimes, he's one of the best offensive lineman coach in the country, and he's tough. Like, I'm talking Private Pal, Full Metal Jacket, without the suicide tough. But, what did Coach Grimes tell you when you got benched? What did he say?
Well, he knew, me being a coach's son, he pretty much knew that he assumed that I had a feeling, and he was right. So when we finally had that meeting, that one-on-one, he just asked the question, you know what's going to happen, right? It's like, yes, I do. And rightfully so. I deserve to be benched. And it happened, and he said, I love you. Just keep working. This is not the end. It's just the beginning for you. And let's be honest, Dwight. that was the first time someone has ever given me anything. After my freshman year was over, after the Gator Bowl, they put me in that right guard spot. They gave me that spot. They never gave me a chance to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't work like I should have that second year, earlier in the season. So when I got benched, that really opened my eyes up, and a lot of teammates were voicing their issues with that. Oh, that's BS, or you need to transfer.
Hold on. Hold on. I don't see now. That's why I said it's good to have these talks.
It's good to have this conversation.
I did not know that. Because I mean, you already know me. I won't salt. Who was salty? It's not about naming names, but like it was a lot of players.
No, just Big Light.
Wow.
Big Light. He was like, you need to transfer. That's BS, you need to transfer. That was the first thing he said to me, and I was thinking about it. But again, I chose Tech for a reason.
And Big Light is Jim Barron.
Jim Barron, yeah.
Yeah, Jim Barron, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I chose Tech for a reason. And just because things didn't go the way I wanted to go does not mean that is over. That journey is over. So all I did, the best I could, I played in spot games here and there that year. And that offseason, I rededicated myself back to what I needed to do. And
that, in a lot of ways, helped you become the player how you ended your career at Tech. You had that adversity, the conversations, all that stuff. It's amazing how going through some adversity in your career, you can either toughen up and become mentally and physically stronger, or you can crumble and give in, and you didn't do that. So you ended up your career at Virginia Tech. Do you have any regrets? Like, I ask that sometimes to players and even coaches when you look back your 4 years. Not so much regrets individually, but that as well, but also as a team. Like, I wish we would have won this game. I wish we would have won this conference. Or I wish I would have played better. That cost us the game. Are there any regrets in your 4 years?
There's a few. I wish we would have beat Miami of Ohio my senior year. They were giant killers at that time, and I think if we beat them, then that season would have ended differently. I wish we would have took care of business in Syracuse our junior year when we got blown out by McNabb. We had a lead going into the fourth quarter, but things didn't go our way. Those two really stick out the most. Losing at UVA my senior year really stings. I really feel like that 97 team really underachieved, but we had a lot of injuries. But I don't make excuses for injuries. It's just that we did not do what we needed to do. And that being said, we still were a quarter away from playing in a big bowl. We're at Pitt, and we gave up two four-quarter touchdowns. And that stuck us in the Gator Bowl with North Carolina, and we all know how that ended. They shouldn't even been in that game.
Yeah. You know what, man? I got regrets. I probably should have just faked an injury, man. I know. No, I wasn't scared of Carolina, but I remember now that you said that, Carolina that year was loaded. They were 10-1, shouldn't have been in the Gator Bowl. They had Ebenezer Ekubon, Greg Ellis, Vonnie Holliday, Dre Bly. They had a rack of first round and second round picks. And
the starting 11 were all American.
Yeah. To show you how, for those that, did not watch that game or went holiday shopping because it was a debacle, Nick Sorson, our brother and teammate, Nick Sorson was the MVP of the game on our side on offense, offensive MVP. And Al Clark was the starter, and Nick Sorson was our emergency quarterback. He was our third-string quarterback, and he was out there running for his life because we were banged up. They were blitzing every play. We got down. So,
what people don't get, Al came fresh off a knee scope. Al was fresh off a knee scope, so he really wasn't mobile, and that was a few shotgun snaps where I could have they were too high for him. There's a lot of things. And there's a lot of, we could play the what-if game on that one so many times.
Yeah, I always look back. That's one of my regrets. I felt I should have played better, but I think that was a response. But I remember Beamer. Now, do you remember this, man? He came in because that's the picture that had me. That's back when I had hair and I was on the bench. I was going to cover the Road No Times. And underneath my picture was a quote from my brother Gennaro. He said, if we had played them 60 times, they would have beat us 60 times. And, I know Gennaro, he was upset. He was just emotional, but at the same time, I remember Beamer being the most upset. I don't know if you remember, but he came in there and took one of them little brown stools and put them in the middle of the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody from the coaches on down, that if we don't get our mind right, I'm giving you the clean version. When we get back to the bird, everybody is on notice. Every position is up for grabs. He told us. And then we came back. You guys graduated. We came back and we amended, that season. We had a better season. We finished going 9-3 and had some what ifs that year. Had 3 tough losses. So end up being momentum for the national championship team, the team that made a run at the national championship.
Yep.
So you're in your career at Tech, and the draft is coming. And the draft is, you didn't think about the draft when you were playing, but all of a sudden by the time you're senior year, you're rated as one of the best linemen in the country, and teams are looking at you. I mean, this is now a reality for you and your family. Let's go back to draft day. What happened? Who took you? Where were you at? Did you stay in Blacksburg?
Well,
sure.
The first thing I want to say before the draft is that it was coming, and I was student teaching. The combine was coming up. I was student teaching. I was getting my degree. So I wasn't living in the weight room like I should, but the degree was more important. But so see, this career was over, and it was time to wait. So my junior year, I saw some publications that I was like ranked 22nd as a guard, and my senior year when I moved to center, I was the number 3 center in the country. Which, I mean, again, rankings are rankings. It is what it is. But I was thinking at one point that I was going to get drafted in the 3rd round because every player in front of me was getting drafted earlier and earlier and earlier. But it didn't happen until the second day in round 4. About 12:30, I was still in Tech. It was raining. And on the TV, Carolina was on the clock. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to Carolina. Phone rings, it was Tony Dungy. And what a lot of people don't know is that in '98, I played in the Senior Bowl, All-Star game in Mobile, Alabama. And one of my NFL interviews was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was Dungy, Herm Edwards, Rod Marinelli, Rich McKay. I mean, it was an all-star staff in that building. They were looking at me for 2 hours. And when Dungy asked me, what you want to do if football wasn't in your life? And I said, coaching, there was people laughing in that room. There were people laughing. Oh, yeah.
You can hear him laughing?
Dungy wasn't laughing.
Oh, I know Dungy. Well, I know he's that kind of guy.
No, but there were some people laughing. So fast forward, to now, I met Dungy a few times after the fact. We still bring it up, and he jokes, and he apologized for the laughter, and he's very proud of it. But, he called me up on that draft day. He said, I bet you had a long first day. We just traded up with Carolina, so we're going to bring you in. And that was it. And it was like playing for your dad. He didn't ask you if you were excited. He didn't ask you if you were pumped up. He just expects you to come in and do your work and do your job the best you can.
I gotta ask you. I know we talked throughout your NFL career because we're close, but you go from being an offensive lineman at Virginia Tech, going against J.C. Price, Jim Byrne, Cornell Brown, Waverly Jackson, all these Hank Coleman, Lawrence Lewis, Death Row, one of the best defensive lines, front sevens in Virginia Tech and college football history. Then you get drafted by the Bucks, and you're going against Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks and some animals. I mean, you're talking about legendary animals on the NFL level.
Yes.
Did you ever say, why me, or you just, again, buckled your chin strap and you just kept going?
I'll tell you what, I buckled my chin strap, and my first one-on-one drill was against Brad Culpepper. He was a nose guard from Florida. Shifty, quick as hell. When I heard Hut, before the ball even moved, he was passing. And so I turned around and was like, this real? So I'm like, okay. So I tightened up the chin strap and I got to work, and that never happened again. Now I lost some battles, obviously, but going against not Warren Sapp and Culpepper, Anthony McFarland, Simeon Rice, Greg Spires, going against those guys every single day in practice, you have no choice but to get better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
No, go ahead.
no, you good. You good.
So when you were in Tampa Bay, y'all had those playoff games that y'all couldn't get over the hump. And I've never asked you this before you left Tampa Bay. Do you think, and I know you coach NFL, so you have to be careful answering this, but do you think Tony Dungy gets enough credit? I know he eventually won a Super Bowl with the Colts. And this is not a knock against Gruden. This is nothing even about Gruden. It's more so about, do you think he gets enough credit or got enough credit for what he built with the Bucs during his time there? Because you were there with Dungy and company.
No, I don't think he does.
Yeah.
I don't think he does. When we had a string where we were 0-18, 0-19 when kickoff was under 40 degrees, and we had a series of first-round wild card losses to Philadelphia. And I think we lost to him 3 times. I'm not for sure. But
yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. So on the last playoff game against Philly, we lost with Dungy. We're flying back, and it was under the impression that Dungy was going to be back next year. We all did. We had a good season. And so we got back, and we're starting our exit physicals. The next day, he's gone. Just like that. And I get it. It's a business, and no one is safe from it. It is what it is. But I really do, and you're right, I really do believe he did not get enough credit because he put together a squad of people. He put together – I'm not just talking about just the players. I'm talking about just management, front office, coaches, men that wanted to actually be around each other on and off the field.
And we're real time. And manage some of the most extra personalities ever. You got Warren Sapp, Keyshawn was on that team.
Yes.
Keyshawn, yeah. And he also put together a great coaching staff. Am I mistaken? But wasn't Tomlin on that staff as well?
Tomlin was on that staff.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, a great coaching tree. You were a player, and then we'll talk about you winning championships. But that's pretty impressive. I always think about Dungy. It's just sometimes that demeanor he has, the way he carries himself. It's almost like if you're not loud and outspoken, you get overlooked. Very similar to a guy we're going to talk about in a second with you and Harbaugh. Another guy that, if you take a step back, Harbaugh, who you coached with, was just another great coach. So talk about your time in the NFL. You went to Tampa Bay, and then you played there. And then what other teams did you play for, and where'd you end up going?
Yeah, so played 5 years with Tampa, 5 years with Tampa Bay, and, won a championship with those guys. And right after that, I spent 3 years with the Houston Texans. When I got to Houston in 2003, it was their second year as a franchise. They wanted me there their first year as an expansion, but I decided to stay in Tampa, and it worked out for me with our Super Bowl run. So I got 8 years in, and very thankful for those 8 years.
And you got 8 years in, and you won a Super Bowl with the Bucs. Okay, before we talk about the one you won as a coach with the Ravens, people can watch the Super Bowl, the halftime show. It's another thing to be a player in that game and play in that game and media week and all of that. Just talk briefly about how was it being in the Super Bowl? What was the Super Bowl at? Where y'all played at?
San Diego.
How was it? How was it? The atmosphere? Is it off the hook? Is it crazy? I mean, just I remember one thing you said. I'll answer it for you. You said it goes by really fast.
It does go by fast.
Yeah, it goes by fast. But talk about how else was it?
It was awesome. I mean, it was great. I mean, you're the only one of 2 teams that are left playing, and so you're on the biggest stage in that sport. Everybody's going to watch you. So you got all the swag. You come into your room, you get little gifts here and there, and they're shuffling you off doing these interviews and things of that nature. Even guys that never really played much were doing interviews. So it was good to get all that attention. But it's very easily to get distracted because it's like, okay, congratulations on making it this far. But, hey, you do have a game to play. And I think a lot of players and some players will forget that sometimes and just get caught up in the moment of making it instead of actually going there and doing the job and winning it.
Yeah. Now, you guys were fortunate. Nobody, well, I know you can't disclose it too much, but nobody really got in trouble, did they? I don't remember anything.
No,
Okay.
nobody got in trouble.
Okay. Because, I mean, what the average fan doesn't realize is you may hear about a high-profile player getting caught up, and there's been many stories at Super Bowls where guys get in trouble. But there's also, even on the collegiate level, guys that get sent home that you may not know about because they're having too much
Right.
fun. Yeah. So you get done coaching, I mean, you get done playing, and then now it's time to coach.
Yes.
And talk about your journey into coaching, because you had a great college and great NFL career. You played in the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl, played with some phenomenal Hall of Famers and some Pro Bowlers, but now your career is over. You're becoming a father. You're done playing. Now your other dream of coaching is coming to fruition. What happens? What's the first job, and how do we get to the Ravens?
So the first thing I did was pull out. I started during my playing career. Every coach that I knew or knew of, I let them know what was my intention. And I'm planning on coaching when I'm done. And I stayed in touch with those guys. When I was done playing at Houston, I sent out resumes, I sent out emails. I went to the coaching convention, and the first coach I ran into, his name was Trent Merritt. He was the head coach at Davidson College in North Carolina. And we had a great conversation, and things were moving in that direction. But then I get a phone call from my offensive line coach, Steve Marshall, backstory on Steve Marshall, he coached at the Texans. He coached TJ at Virginia Tech, which people don't know. But he calls me up and say, I got a friend of mine who's coaching at San Diego at a small college, University of San Diego, and he's looking for an offensive line coach. So, I gave out my information. He called me. He flew me out for a 2-day, 10-hour interview, and he hired me. So that's how I got my first job. And,
how long was the interview?
2 days, 10 total hours.
And what was the
now,
job?
we'll get into that later. There's several coaches that I know right now, their interviews lasted maybe 2 minutes, and they just signed a piece of paper and they're out the door.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, I mean, that's a long interview. I thought you were getting a security clearance. That's a long interview, man.
Yeah,
So, and then what happens next?
So I get the job, and I worked from my first year I was offensive line coach. My second year, I worked up to run game coordinator. And then my third year there, I was the offensive coordinator. I was the OC. So I was just putting my head down and working, and we had some good teams, some good games. One of my claims to fame I like is that we went 6 straight games without a sack.
That's
and
awesome.
the first sack we gave up is because the quarterback rolled out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage.
All right, I'm going to stop right there. For those watching, I'm going to hold it down for the offensive linemen. Many times during the game, it's the quarterback's fault. It's not always the protection. People don't realize that. They were like, oh, my, look at the line. I'm like, yeah, no, y'all don't realize the quarterback might have been a side adjust or he rolled into the pressure. Sorry.
Yes. That's okay. I'm glad you did. So, yes. It was a great 3 years, learned a lot, and my career was going in the right direction. And then I get a phone call from another coach that coached me in the league, Chris Palmer. He was the head coach of a team in Connecticut that started up in this startup league called the UFL, United Football League. Mm-hmm. And I view that as a way of me getting back on the East Coast because that's where everybody was. That's where all the coaches, all my connections, everything on the East Coast. So, but again, it was a risk. He told me, it's like, Todd, you can sign this contract now and the league can fold tomorrow. And, but just because that's how startup leagues are, but it was a risk that I had to take. So, a risk we had to take as a family. So we went back over to the Connecticut. We had a great season, and that actually opened the door for me to get the call from Baltimore. And the same time Baltimore called me, Dallas called. And, and Dallas was my team growing up.
I remember. Go ahead. Yeah, I remember. And it's crazy because on the shore and where we from, Dallas ain't popular.
No, it's not. They're not very popular at all. And they were not very good at that time. So. But yeah, it was. I got the Dallas fell through, and Baltimore came through, and they brought me out for an interview that lasted 12 hours.
That's crazy.
They got me out of my suit. I was wearing sweats. I'm talking through techniques and drills. I'm drawing up stuff I've seen on film, how I pick up blitzes, those things. And they hired me. And I went from Connecticut one season, and then I'm right there in Baltimore in the NFL, which where I wanted to be. And the crazy thing was 3 days after I was hired, the Connecticut team folded.
Yeah.
So I got very fortunate that we were able to get a job in Baltimore, and I was there for 6 years.
And you were there with one of my favorite coaches, and Coach Harbaugh. I mean, you look at Bill Belichick, but he might be the GOAT, and that's debatable. I think he's arguably one of the best coaches of all time. But Harbaugh is right there with him. You talk about as far as someone that's owned Belichick, the Ravens have been a thorn in the Patriots side, and you were part of that. And once again, let me add, now you go from Virginia Tech, a great defensive program, the Bucks, who had Hall of Famers and legendary Pro Bowl defensive players, and you go to the Ravens, where they had T-Sizzle, T-Suggs, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. You go where the defense goes. You've been around some absolute dogs and legendary players. And I remember, Shanice, my wife, and I, we've gone to, when you were coaching the Ravens, we would go see you and meet with you and have dinner a few times and come to some games. And Tyrod was there. And the Ravens atmosphere is wonderful, the family atmosphere. And you had a great time in Baltimore. What people don't realize is you also, even with the Ravens, turned down some jobs because people were coming after you because you were doing such a great job with the Ravens. Talk about what it was like to win a Super Bowl with the Ravens, coaching those guys on offense. You were there. Well, Tyrod was there. He was a backup. But, you had some really good players there and some great times in Baltimore. Talk about your time there.
The first day in Baltimore, first day of practice, because that was a lockout year when I first got there. But it's a little intimidating. I mean, you have grown-ass men that are perfectionists at their craft, at their position on your team. You have on defense, you have a Hall of Famer on every level. You have a Hall of Famer on D-line, you got a Hall of Famer at linebacker, you got a Hall of Famer in the secondary. And you have to go against that defense every day. And not only go against them, you have to go against their egos and attitudes and the way they talk at you, talk trash to you.
Oh, yes.
So if you're not thin-skinned when you get to Baltimore, by the time you leave, you will be thick-skinned because you have to learn how to push through those things. But that being said, I mean, we were dominant, and the way Harbaugh ran that program, I view it as it was like Dungy on steroids. He was very, very demanding. He wasn't demeaning, but he was extremely demanding of the players. And we all were because we wanted to be the best. And we knew the only way to do that is to outwork people. So we did some extreme things. We in full padded practices, we doubled down, which means we split the team in half. So one half on one field, one half on the other. If a guy gets hurt, we'll still keep it going. So there was a lot of reps being had for everybody. So it was the same thinking. The more reps you get, the better you'll get. And if you don't get better, then you're not good. You're not right for us. And so we were to a point where when teams looked at us on the schedule, they were like, "Oh crap, we got to play Baltimore." They don't want to do that. And it was a great experience for me to learn not only how to win, but also how to prepare the right way. And the new little nuances of the game, situational football, things that we really never covered much. We did a lot in Tampa as a player, don't get me wrong, but, Harbaugh took it to a whole different level. He actually had one guy, his main job was to gotta have the situational football, and we practice them every day.
No doubt. Situational football is key, man. Like I said, I remember going to those games. I've always liked the Ravens. I love the culture in Baltimore as far as everybody wearing purple and black on Sundays. It's amazing, man. I would come and talk to you, and then, I would remember talking in the parking lot with Ray Lewis and all those guys, and they were so humble, but on the field, him and Ed and those guys were animals. And then even on offense, you guys had some physical weapons on offense. Basically, being on that coaching staff and being a part of that helped you become a better coach. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So then you leave Baltimore after a great run there, and then what happens?
That's where I got stuck. I got it happens. It happens in this profession. It was about 3 years where the NFL wasn't calling, and and when you're coaching and when you're a coach, it's hard to find work. You got to find something. So I spent some time down in Florida training college linemen, getting them ready for the combine, Senior Bowl, getting them ready for the drafts. I did a couple of internships in the NFL. I was at Chicago for a couple of weeks. I knew some of the coaches there. But what really helped me was in 2018, I spent the entire training camp with Miami. And Adam Gase was the head coach at the time. And I did a great job down there. It was fun. I mean, I'm actually was with those guys, and there was a slim chance they were going to keep me on for the whole year. Things didn't work out. But the last day of camp, I get a phone call from the AAF. And so Steve Spurrier, the head coach of the Orlando team, he calls me. And because the general manager was a Buccaneer front staff guy. And so that's how I got in with him. He hired me, and we had a great run for those 8 games. And, the league folded, no money. And about 2 or 3 weeks after the fact, I caught on with the XFL with Pep Hamilton. And, yep. And I was working with the tight ends and tackles. And as soon as we were about to start our draft is when I get a call from the Jets. And Gase, who was at Miami in 2018, who's now the head coach at the Jets, he calls me, and they had a guy quit last minute. And he asked me to come on up for an interview. And again, that was the first interview that didn't involve a football question, just because he knows me and he's seen me work. And he finally had a spot for me. And it just worked out.
And do you think that there will be football this year? Because I'm getting excited thinking about you with the Jets and that division, and no more Tom Brady and all the different teams that you're going to coach against. Do you think that we will have NFL football this year?
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I do believe that there will be football. But I don't think there will be fans in the stadium. But I think football will be played.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I want to go back to something. You talk about relationships, and they're key in corporate America. I don't care if you work at Foot Locker, Wendy's, or you're in the NFL. But at the same time, I heard Todd talk many times about the inequalities or sometimes challenges we face of people of color when it comes to getting on in the NFL or the collegiate ranks and becoming a coach. Dungy and Tomlin have spoken about it briefly, but not to the point where they take away from their coaching, but they speak about it. Do you feel like your journey, you've seen that, like some of the inequalities Todd has talked about, and how you mentioned how you did these hour-long interviews, and then some guys, they come in and they over, a cup of coffee and they get the deal off the rip?
100%. 100%. But in my frame of mind, I can't dwell on that. I have to look at it as this is my journey. But it's definitely frustrating. It is definitely frustrating when you see your peers get opportunities quicker than you. For example, I'm not going to name names, but a good friend of mine who was a coach at San Diego with me, he actually did my drawings, and now he's the offensive line coach at Tennessee.
Wow.
Another guy who, let me see if I get this right. I interviewed at San Fran when Kyle Shanahan first got the job, and I known Kyle for a long time. I was told to my face that I was overqualified. The guy that they hired became the head O-line coach at Green Bay in 2 years. So I'm thinking to myself, how can he be underqualified and get a higher paying job in 2 years, where I'm overqualified and just want to work and can't even get through the door. So it is frustrating. It is
tough, but I agree with you. I think we can always fall back on reasons why things are happening to us and they're frustrating us, or you can rise above it like you've been doing. And speaking of that, your coaching career is still ongoing, and you've been blessed and very fortunate to be around some of the best coaches, your father, Tony Dungy, Harbaugh in Baltimore, Coach J.B. Grimes, Coach Beamer. Do you eventually want to be a head coach? That's the question, bro.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
question.
I know that's the question.
Because before you answer, as your roommate, longtime friend, we brothers, I'm one of your biggest fans and supporters. I know, I've seen you. You've done my high school football camps. I've seen you like a rapper or a musician in the studio. You get in the zone, you don't even know what's going on behind you. You coaching and telling the steps, and you are great at it, but you know the game. But head coaching is a different job. You know, now you got to deal with the media, different things. It's one thing to be down at the end of the bench or the headset. Do you think you want to do that, or is that one of your long-term career goals?
I can see myself right now head coaching, when I'm retired, probably at a small school maybe. Right now, I want to be the best position coach I can be. Whether it's in the running back room or whether it's in the offensive line. But I'm not going to sit there and lie to you, Vic. I mean, there have been times where it's like I have dreams and visions of being a head coach. You know, it's in the back of my mind. And if the right opportunity presents itself, I'm going to jump and take it. You know, I really feel I have a lot to offer this game. I work at it. I respect it. I tell players all the time, you respect the game will respect you back. And I firmly believe that. And, you know, who never know what the future holds, man. But, you know, I'm on the fence with it.
Yeah, I can't wait for that call because I know it's coming. Seeing guys like you and Lauren Johnson, I'm not surprised that y'all are successful. It's not even a surprise. And there's more. I mean, Anthony Midget and so many guys from the Beamer legacy who are coaching. I know I'm not going to name everybody because there's a lot out there.
There's a lot.
And all you guys are doing extremely well, which is really exciting to see just as someone who was your brother and teammate. So you're coaching, and I want to give you a chance to talk about how supportive and important your family is, because you and I text, you send me pictures. Now you've been a father, shouldn't say now, you've been a father for quite some time. And you have to balance that because coaching, I grew up a preacher's kid. You move around a lot, you know, there's long days, long nights, early mornings. Your wife and kids have been there all the time. Talk about how important they are to you and what your kids are doing, playing sports, what they're into, because I know they mean a lot to you.
They do. And I wouldn't have gotten married if my wife wouldn't understand what I was trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're a football family. We're an athletic family. She gets it. She supports me. She's my biggest supporter. But, yeah, anytime I get a chance to watch my kids or talk about my kids, you know I will. You know, Cameron's at Old Dominion. You know, playing. He's 21 now. He's a D lineman playing at Old Dominion right now, and he's doing very well. Good grades, all that good stuff, man. I'm very proud of him, of the man he's become. My daughter, Ava, she's 16. She's driving now, and she's in lacrosse. And she'll graduate. You know, she'll be a senior, and she'll be going to Pitt to play lacrosse. And
awesome.
you know, she's put the work in. And she knows what it looks like, and she is very headstrong, and she gets after it. And my youngest, Zane, he's playing lacrosse. He's thinking about playing football right now. It may be a late bloomer. I don't know. But he's probably the better athlete of the three, the fastest, and things come easy to him. But he has no urge right now about college, which is fine.
Really?
You know? No. He's like, I just want to play with my friends. You know?
That's okay. That's fine. As long as your kids have goals and they find their niche. Yeah, that's good. So you got a great family.
And then we try to do everything together as a family. And what I mean by that, I'll give you a quick story. 2013, I was, you know, Steve Sarkisian offered me the USC job to be the offensive line coach.
I remember.
At USC. And, you know, people look at me like I'm crazy that I turned it down.
I text you when me and I were talking. I said, "What you doing, bro?" You're like, "Man, it's not that simple." And the NFL, I was like, "I'm just like, come, that's USC." And again, I'm not in that field, so I understand. And your
And
reasons for not taking it?
And this is the reason. I sat the family down and I asked Ava to, because she just made the club team that she was playing with for lacrosse. And I asked her, say, look, I just got a job going back to Cali. You know, what do you think? You want to move? And she says no. And I asked her why. And she said, I busted my butt to make this team and I want to play with my girls. And that choked me up right there because that sounded like something I would say. And, you know, Zane said the same thing. And then Shannon, my wife, is like, well, yeah, I think you have the answer. You're just going to have to pray on it and just do it. And, you know, I just couldn't do it to the family. You know, and Sarkeesian was a great salesman, man. He had all these, well, we can do this for you. We can put money aside and we can work on this. It just was not the right fit. And then, you know, all know the end of that story. You know,
yeah.
He got fired.
Fire. It worked out well for you.
Right. So just saying, like, if I take that job based on just the name and the pageantry of Southern Cal, I take that job and he doesn't like my style or my method, I could be out on my butt in a year. So it's, you know, it's not that simple. I wish it was.
And that's a critical lesson for those and anyone watching, listening, whatever, to trust your instincts. Because even though you and I are extremely close, I wasn't thinking about your wife and kids at that time. And I was also being selfish because I want you to be a head coach. And I also was looking at you on the West Coast, the pageantry and tradition with USC, what that could lead to. But you have to trust your instincts and you have to trust what God tells you and your journey. And that worked out well for you. And I'm happy that it did. Now you're in New York and doing your thing there. And I'm sure that's going to lead to some great things.
It is. And I really do believe that if I took that job, things will be different. I don't think Ava would be going to Pitt. I don't think Zane and Cameron will be where they are right now. I really do things happen for a reason, and that path for me is laid out, and I just didn't like that direction. Mm-hmm. And, you know, currently right now in New Jersey with the Jets, man, I mean, I'm excited. You know, we got a decent backfield now. Frank Gore's in. We got Le'Veon Bell. We upgraded our offensive line. We got speed at wide receiver. You know, our defense is going to be consistent. No one's talking about us, which is perfect. And, you know, I'm excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I mean, I'm always excited when I know my guys are in the league or coaching or playing, especially you. And I think actually it sets up nicely for the Jets because the Patriots are in transition. I mean, although we know still Belichick's going to do a great job, but, you know, the Dolphins are still in transition. They've been in transition since I had hair. But, you know, that division is winnable. And then you never know. That's the beauty of the NFL, man. You know, the parity, every year it's 2 to 3 new teams jumping up there, man. Real quick, and I want to give you a chance to reflect a little bit and give some final thoughts. You are very humble. You deal in the here and now. You don't really get caught up in looking back or talking and making proclamations. But for a moment, when you reflect on the fact that you came from the countryside, the 757, the Eastern Shore, you know, you lost your father, but he taught you so many life lessons. You got a wonderful, beautiful mother. You and your brother both went to NFL. You are the one of 9 people that have won a Super Bowl as a player and as a coach. I think I got that right. I know it's not many.
Like 13 or more.
13 or more, yeah.
Yeah, 13 or a little bit more.
And then I believe you're in the Virginia Tech Sports Hall of Fame.
That I don't know.
No, I know your jersey. I just remember you at Tech or whatever, but even if you're not, you should be. I'm putting that out there right now. You had a wonderful career. What would you tell anybody that's on the same path as you or trying to fight for that same journey? Or what's your advice? You know, if somebody's struggling right now or just trying to become a great player, a great coach, you know, there now, because, you know, you had some tough moments when you were stuck. Like, what would be your feedback to them?
One, you got to stick with it. If it's something that you really want to do and something you love, you have to stick with it. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's why, you know, you have a lot of senior coaches around and other people around the building. Ask for help if you're stuck. You know, don't take no for an answer. especially on the field, man, it's like, don't tell me you can't do something. Find a way. There's always a way, and just do right by each other, and those simple things, it doesn't take much, but for me, it was just, again, like I said before, I hate being beat. So I'm going to work at it. I'll be thankful from where you're from and where you're going. It's just, I never really tooted my own horn. I never really been that type of guy. And, I'm now sitting back, look at it. Yeah, I've been blessed. I've been very fortunate to have some of the things I have. And even in the struggles, I'm thankful for those. I'm very thankful for those because it taught me something about myself. And hopefully my kids see it as well as they grow up and start to become young men and women in this world too.
Yeah, wise words, man. Well, there you have it. From my brother, my teammate, Todd Washington, NFL coach, Virginia Tech legend. And for those watching and those listening, man, I just want to tell everybody, remind you, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, leave a positive and impactful legacy. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, man. We got to do it again sometime.
Absolutely.